traditions have to contribute is that you actually don't have control, so you can't just decide to let go. I mean, decide, oh, I'm not going to be anxious. No more. Oh, yeah? Now, Buddhism goes at that by saying, hey, egoless. And, the Western religions may say, well, God has to take this from you. You can't do it. And other traditions say other things. But you really have control over some things in the way you think you do. As, for example, see, that's not very functional behavior either. Okay, so let me tell you a story about that. This is a New York subway study. I'm from New York originally, and a few years ago, my cousins told me about this incident. And you can consider this a certain form of Christmas story that goes with this early stuff. So it's Christmas Eve, kind of early Christmas Eve, just when the stores are closing. Okay, now, the day before Christmas, kind of when the stores are still open, are you sitting there with a candle and, everything sort of getting into the Christmas mode? Maybe. But maybe what you're doing is buying things frantically. And then, if you're in New York or in San Francisco, you want to get home with those things. And in New York, probably you're going by the subway. So that is the one day in the year when the ordinary mobs in the subway become amazing. Okay, so this is the setting. Train pulls up, cram in. And doors start closing, and people are still trying to cram in. And there's a woman who's just desperately trying to get in, and the doors close. And there's one of these automated voices saying, stand back, or and the doors close, and she has this content of nightmares, at least that women have. The doors close, not on her hand, but on the straps of her handbag. So the handbag is inside the train, and her hand holding the strap is outside, and the train starts moving. And someone on the platform says, hey, and she's, beating on the doors, screaming for them to open the doors. And this guy says, lady, let go. And the train moves a little faster. And she's running along by it, yelling various unmentionable things, beating on the door. And everyone in the subway station takes up this chant, hey, lady, let go, let go. And she gets madder and madder and is running faster and faster. And the train does not stop, and she does not let go, and she's dragged into the tunnel and killed. Oh, let go. In a slightly different vein, I think the whole yana can be summed up by Hafiz, again, who's not Buddhist, he's a Sufi Persian poet. And he says, if you don't pay attention to every blessed little thing, of course, blessed is in two senses. I'm told by people who speak the original language that is, it means literally blessed, he's a Sufi, but it also means blessed, namely how things look and things are. If you don't pay attention during mindfulness or anything, look at every blessed little thing, this world will sink its teeth into your sweet ass. All right. Next stage, Mahayana. Think of it as the dawn of a new mode of knowing. And shunyata and compassion are your two main concepts, and together they form a sense of non-duality. So you've got your emptiness, your openness, your freedom, the aspect of your mind. So this is the trick to letting go. That is naturally let go. So that the things that the ego can't do, because in Buddhist terms it doesn't exist, actually you can do, and you're kind of already doing it. And when that is tuned into the compassion and the warmth and the friendliness and the love and the empathy and the embracing the world and all of that stuff will simply arise. And it doesn't make any sense, but it does. And non-duality, which we've talked about interdependence, but the understanding side of that, or the experience side of that, is not just that you're kind of looking and saying, oh, look, hey, that all connects up, and ecologically, look, if you do that to that river, look at what's going to happen, and you destroy your wetlands and the hurricane comes. We can intellectually see interdependence, but that the feeling is withness and being part of and not separate. And look, everybody reaches for this in one way or another, with difficulty sometimes. Okay, and so here's some advice from the Life and Letters of Tofu Roshi, this is an advice column by Tofu Roshi. So, I'm easily distracted by noises while I am sitting zazen. The other morning, somebody was trying to start a car just outside the Zendo window. 63 times they tried. A few times the engine actually turned over. It seemed as though the whole Zendo held its collective breath until the engine would die again. I came out of there a nervous wreck and arrived at work grinding my teeth and cracking my knuckles. My boss said, "You seem a little tense." I've just learned, people say this, I just learned about a new great thing. Why don't you take up meditation? How can I, at that point you want to, how can I achieve inner peace? Distractible. You're distractible. It has been said that the bird song outside the Zendo window will not disturb us when we understand that we are the bird and the bird is us. We face admittedly a greater challenge in becoming one with the car that will not start. Think of your arms and legs as wheels, your eyes as headlights, your belly, or hara, as a carburetor. The zabuton on which you sit should extend 2 inches beyond the rim of the rear tires. Press the left front hubcap gently on the right front hubcap. The fact that this is Tofu Roshi should give you a clue as to that meditators can, in fact, laugh at themselves, and that's one of the aspects of freedom. Okay, now notice that there's a different relationship when we start Mahayana with samsara. So, all your desires and emotions and relationships, you're inherently free. you're not separate, and there's the possibility of compassion and love. So all of this, instead of kind of, we want to get away from this to nirvana, it's, this can be the path, yes. Okay, that's where Buddhism, the question was, if something's bothering you, like say you're trying to sit in here and you can hear the lecture over there, what do you want to do? Just get absorbed in yourself so you don't hear it anymore? Well, that's one way. It doesn't happen to be the mindfulness way. That was comparing Buddhism across traditions. That's definitely the way of Hindu yogis who can actually not hear it. So that may be, if that's your tradition, go for it. You might have to say the mindfulness way is, first of all, to notice it, and then to be one with it. But he's kind of teasing when people get really hung up on that. Okay, so at the same time, you're insane. So your ordinary life with all its stuff, including cars, I mean, if you think it's bad to listen to someone whose car won't start, suppose it's your car. Well, all of that is then usable as one sort or another. Okay, next stage, Vajrayana and late Mahayana, which of course they consider the arrival. And we've talked about that. Buddha nature, natural state, primordial mind, all of these things called it. And when things arise from that, then you can actually see the world as wisdom directly. And you can actually act in the world directly and spontaneously from that wisdom. And again, the view of samsara and ordinary life changes, because here, everything experienced in ordinary life is pointedly and potently wisdom from the start. And we get flashes of that. So you can tune into that very directly. So the thing about being frightened or angry or grumpy at this time of year, from this point of view, you don't want to pile negativity on top of that and say, oh, I can stand this, I just want it to be gone. It points out what one is doing. The point of mindfulness is that as you become closer and closer and more mindful to absolutely ordinary experience, you see the experience becomes different kind of wisdom. And those different wisdoms that the experience becomes are exactly these headings that each of the yanas have. So you're going to, in this, in the first one we just went over that, you'll see it as open or empty and full of compassion and non-dual and Mahayana, and you're going to see it as this basic primordial wondrous thing and arising as wisdom. And the whole point of the mandala, I mean, forget about the eventually mandala per se, it's that it's Vajrayana Buddhism's way of taking specific emotions and pointing to how those can be your wisdom. So if one can tune into this, it is a glowing bowl indeed. Does this seem elusive? Well, here is a story from one of you. Here we are. Okay. I figured this might be the last nice weather we have. So you remember a week ago or whenever it was. So I took my dog to run at Point Isabel. It's a point going out into the bay at the bottom of, I think it's Central Avenue. It was a warm day here, but it was cold and really windy there. In fact, it was miserable. Then Sarah Lee came bounding back from the water, and she shook herself all over me. So I was not only cold, but I had crud all over my pants. So I was walking along thinking, I don't have time for this. And something happened in my head. I hadn't been doing anything. I sure hadn't been thinking about Buddhist psychology class. But suddenly, everything was all right. It wasn't like, oh, everything is going to be all right. It was that everything was all right. It didn't make any sense. And didn't have to. It was almost like I was someone else, like I had something like a mind transplant. I thought, all right, from now on I can just go do what I have to do. It wasn't like a big religious thing or anything, but it was great. Only it didn't last. It was a lot less by the next morning, and by the day after that, it was gone. But I'll remember it. Is this the kind of thing you're talking about with that natural state stuff and all that? Well, yeah. Okay. Now, in light of this, rest and activity are not all that separate. This is a poem of a Chinese nun who was one of the most active people you've ever heard of. She just crisscrossed, by goat cart or whatever, China, and founded monasteries and did all kinds of stuff. Li Han came to a stop in Acacia Grove, and there she sheltered the whole of her life, while violet shadows darkened the trees, and the piled-up snows buried the mountains. Samsara and nirvana are not separate. Here's a story about the Dalai Lama. There was a picture a number of years ago in the New York Times of the Dalai Lama drinking a Coke, and the caption was, "The Dalai Lama takes a break." So one of the students of another Tibetan teacher showed him that, and the teacher looked at it and said, "Oh, a break from what?" What one wants and what one has are not separate. Here's another kind of a devotional poem, and they do get a bit hysterical in that tradition. When, like a hailstorm, crystal like a waxwork image, the flesh melts and the heart is crystal. Before there was heaven or earth, the timeless factor. How can I tell you? The waters of joy broke the banks and ran out of my eyes. How can I talk to anyone of that? And ordinary caged life and freedom are not separate. Another one of these devotional poems. In the boundless glory of your world, the lions and the porcupines and the crusty old gorillas sit in their cages, singing. And it's very ordinary. Last year, instead of the Rashomon people could get extra credit by recording some examples of their own spontaneous actions. I was once talking to a friend who was depressed, I don't remember what the thing was she was upset about. She probably doesn't remember by now either. I was actually scared when I was talking to her, giving her advice, because I probably wouldn't know what to say. But words just kept flowing out of my mouth without thinking. And the weird thing was that we both got comforted by those words, even though I had no idea what I was saying or thinking. Perhaps one of the most deeply felt moments of spontaneous action from me stems from a kiss. There was no thought of wanting to kiss her, and there had been no thought about wanting to be kissed. But there we were sharing a moment that had transcended conscious thought and were guided by an alternate force, one that connected us more deeply than our thoughts ever could. When I was 16, I was working at a restaurant as a busboy, and a car exploded across the street, catching a man on fire. Everyone just pointed and screamed. I didn't think, but I instantly ran out the door across the street and came to a chain link fence, and then he jumps over the fence with everyone else kind of screaming, he's a goner, don't go there, and bursts through the crowd, and he moves the man away from the burning car, and the paramedics come, and so on. Afterwards, I went back to work all dazed and confused, wondering how people could be this way. Everyone called me a hero, and I got real mad and cussed at them for thinking of me in that way. I acted instantly, not knowing what to do or what I was doing. I guess I did what anyone would do. To do the right thing is not acting like a hero, it's just acting like a person. So maybe being a person is being heroic. And it's ordinary because it was there all the time. Yes, Eliot, we shall not cease from exploration. And the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. This is the idea of your good nature. You always have it. Okay, 3 more comments on this ending class. 1, there is a phenomena that students and other ones of this class have told me about, and it is called, I just finished the final effect. Okay, so you're going to, the final will take place, you'll finish it, you'll walk out, and suddenly you'll, sometimes, start to remember things, like, just, it's over. Oh, didn't she say something kind of towards the beginning, middle of the class about when all this is over and you walk out and you look around and think, huh. And then, hey, maybe there were some other things that, in other words, when the stress of this ridiculous thing we call exams is over, you start to find these glowing coals, the ones that matter to you. Okay, next thing. Maybe this class is kind of like gamelan music. That's an Indonesian orchestra. Have one here. You ever want to have no music background and want to play in an orchestra? And the idea, no, because it's its own world. The idea is that this music that they're playing is always there. These cycles are occurring, in wherever the universe. And what an orchestra does is tune in to a particular cycle for a little while, and then music starts slowly and it builds up, gradually fades away, and it's gone from audible, but it's still there somewhere. And the next time, you hear it again. Or maybe it's like this particular haiku. The temple bell stops ringing, the temple bell, but the sound keeps coming out of the flowers. All right, that's it. Enjoy the rest of your life.